All right, let's dive into a question that causes a ton of confusion and, frankly, a lot of anxiety for people. It's this idea that if you got your period, you can't be pregnant, right? Well, as it turns out, the answer is a little more complicated than a simple yes or no.
I mean, for most of us, this feels like a basic rule of biology, doesn't it? The arrival of your period is like the body's big monthly announcement that you are definitely not pregnant. It's the reset button. But is it always that straightforward?
So here's the thing. The short answer is a true period does mean you aren't pregnant from the last cycle. But that word true is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because not all bleeding is a period, and that's where all the confusion, the stress, and the waiting for answers really begins. So let's break it all down.
Okay, so first things first. To get to the bottom of this mystery, we have to define our terms. What exactly counts as a true period? It all comes back to the biology of your monthly cycle.
Every month, your body does this incredible thing. It prepares for a potential pregnancy by building up the lining of your uterus. You can think of it like it's creating this soft, nutrient-rich cushion, just getting the room ready in case a fertilized egg needs a place to land and grow.
You can really boil it down to 3 simple steps. First, that cushion builds up. Second, around the middle of your cycle, an egg is released. We call that ovulation. And third, if that egg doesn't get fertilized and implant into that cozy cushion, the body basically says, all right, not this month, folks, and decides it's time to clean house.
And that cleaning house process, the shedding of that unneeded uterine lining, that is what we call a period. It's the physical proof that a pregnancy didn't happen that month. It's as simple as that.
So how do you spot a true period? Well, there are a few classic signs to look for. The color is usually a pretty distinct bright or dark red. The flow is typically moderate to heavy. We're talking heavy enough to need a pad or tampon, not just a little bit of spotting. And it tends to stick around for anywhere between 3 to 7 days. So, here is the golden rule. If what you're experiencing checks all those boxes for a true period, and, this part is key, you haven't had unprotected sex since it started, then the chance of being pregnant from a previous cycle is practically 0.
But, and this is a really big but, this is where things get tricky. Let's talk about the imposters, the types of bleeding that can show up and pretend to be a period, but really aren't.
Okay, so the most common imposter is something called implantation bleeding. This can happen when a fertilized egg actually attaches and burrows into that uterine cushion we were just talking about. Sometimes that process can disturb tiny blood vessels, which causes a little bit of light bleeding or spotting.
Let's put them side by side so you can really see the difference. A true period is red, the flow is heavy, and it lasts for several days. But this imposter bleeding, it's often pink or brown, it's super light, more like spotting, and it might only last for a day or 2. And the most confusing part is that it can happen right around the time you'd expect your period, which makes it incredibly easy to mistake one for the other. And you know, it's not only implantation bleeding. Other things, like the huge hormonal shifts that are happening in early pregnancy, can also cause some spotting, just adding another layer of potential confusion to the mix.
Now look at this number. Somewhere between 30 and 40% of women experience some kind of bleeding during early pregnancy. This isn't some rare 1 in a million thing. It's actually pretty common. And it's the #1 reason why so many people mistakenly think, oh, I got my period, I can't be pregnant.
So given all this confusing, conflicting information, how can you actually know for sure what's going on? Let's get straight to the point with an action plan for getting a real, definitive answer.
Honestly, it all comes down to this one simple fact. You can't rely on just what you see. The only way to know for sure if you're pregnant is to take a test. That's it. So what's the timeline for that? Well, a really good rule of thumb is to wait about 21 days, 3 weeks, after any unprotected intercourse before taking a home urine test. This gives your body enough time to produce enough of the pregnancy hormone for the test to pick it up. If it's positive, or if you're still feeling unsure, that's your signal to make an appointment with your doctor.
And look, those home urine tests are highly accurate when you take them at the right time. For even more certainty, a doctor can do a blood test, which is even more sensitive. And then a bit later on, an ultrasound provides that absolute visual confirmation.
So, after all of that, what's the one thing you should really hang on to? What is the single most important takeaway from all this?
Here it is. Bleeding can be misleading. While a true period means you are not pregnant from a past cycle, you have to remember that not all bleeding is a true period. When it all comes down to it, the most reliable sign of a pregnancy isn't what you see, it's what a test can tell you.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? This whole topic is a perfect example of a common health certainty that turns out to be way more nuanced than we thought. It kind of makes you wonder, what other things we believe about our bodies are worth taking a second, more critical look at?